How much do you miss this? The idea of being able to do that.
Often I miss it. I remember once thinking, how did I get into this? It was like being knocked down in the surf and getting up and the next wave hit you and then the next wave hit you and I'm doing 5 shows a week and how do I ever get out of this and I never get my breath and so on and so on. And of course, as with all things that you complain about at that time, you'd give anything to have that one day that you were complaining about. It would be such fun to do over again.
You'd like to do it again?
That's what we see. I would enjoy doing it. If doing it again entails all the nightmare that you go through of starting up something and getting here and then the producers change and this and that. We know there are headaches in television. But yeah, I'd like to do. There are times when I really would like to just say, oh, I want to get there and talk to them and do that and hear that audience laugh or whatever.
What you should do is just do the one. You should go and convince someone to let you do the one that you just want to do, that instinctively you want to do, rather than somebody telling you that this is how we will use Dick Cavett.
I think you're right. I think that's absolutely true. My ability to think about myself is so limited that I have to...
You're not introspective at all?
Somewhat.
Yeah. Enough
to have kept what S.J. Perelman called a head candler employed for these many years. You have to be from a rural state to get head candler.
Yes,
I think you have to explain to people about the egg and the... But who but Perelman would have come up with that? Yeah, and there are times when I would just love to sit down with somebody specific and
anybody
see what I could get out of them.
Dying to have a conversation with?
James Gandolfini. No,
You're a fan of The Sopranos?
I really, am I?
Are you really?
Oh, yes.
It's your favorite show on television now?
It may well be.
That and Law and Order. You once had a great affection for Law and Order, I read somewhere.
Yes, loved Law and Order. When I discovered it 3 years after America did and had to catch up on all the reruns. And The Sopranos, you watch a rerun from the first or second year and you realize, I didn't realize how good they were when I saw them the first time. They have
They're now into what, their 3rd season?
3rd season, yeah.
Yeah, they had a big party here recently. I read all about
it. The 3rd season.
The bout with depression, is it all taken care of by chemicals?
Now, this has nothing to do with that. I reached for a mug of whiskey here.
Yes, there is a solution in there. One question about this.
This is genuine coffee, I assume. I'm a victim
or ingenuine, either one, but it's
practical
coffee.
Joke here. Mercifully for people who have the horror of depression, every year there are more ways of treating it, more good chemical
beyond
ways.
lithium and all the things we know about.
Yeah, well, lithium still. They're finding one thing they find emphatically is that some of the oldest medications are still the best, as things produce side effects.
And some of them are even herbal.
Yes, and there are those who swear, who's to deny them that worked for them? Maybe they didn't really have it. Some would say if that worked, the doubters, and there may be any number of things that work for some people and not others, and it should be. It should never be underestimated, the danger of it. That's the thing.
Well, what's stunning to me, I mean, you have talked about, was the time that you were on a plane, I guess it was a Concorde, going to London, I assume, or Paris, one or the other, because that's where the Concorde flew. About to go, and you had to get off the plane. It was worse than that, wasn't it?
That was... what could be more fun than being that was an awful moment when I realized whatever this is that people say...
That's the thing that stuns me. You didn't know.
I didn't know.
If I'd come up to you, I've been sitting next to you and said, what's the problem? You wouldn't have said, well, I'm manic depressive or something.
I got the big D.
I got the big D, which you think is a terrible way to call it. You think it should be called something other than depression.
Well, yeah, the word isn't adequate really, because it does refer, of course, to a dip in the road, and it's much more than a dip in your road when you have it.
And you look back 2 years and say, that's obviously what was troubling me at this time, at this time, at this time.
Yeah, and chemical depressions then suddenly starts to make sense to you when you, and the fact that depression refers to these other things makes that not a very, very good word for it. It's been described as the worst agony devised for man. Churchill famously called his the black dog, is with me again. And the poor devils who get it recurring. And there are those who are up or down, and very little treatment has helped them, are to be pitied. But I think psychopharmacology is at the point today where there's just very rare that you're not going to find something that will work. The thought of waiting 2 weeks, when you think, how do I get through the next hour, let alone 2 weeks, is off-putting.
Yeah, I've done 60 Minutes pieces about it, and it's just stunning in terms of people who are suffering, as they say, as bad and suicidal as they've ever been, and yet once they have the connection with the drugs, life is normal.
But the only thing you can do with the person is tell them, I know you don't believe this. I know you don't believe that you're going to ever feel better. You know you're not, because something in your head is broken.
Right.
It's broken forever. Those things don't heal, and you've got it right now, and yet it will get better. And boy, when it does.
Now, when something like watching your house burn down.
Fortunately, I was spared watching it.
Oh, you didn't see it? You were away?
I've often wondered how would you have stood it.
Have you really wondered if I'd been there? It's not just a house, which was a famous house and an extraordinary achievement for Stanford White, but also art was there, clothes were there, pictures were there, mementos were there.
Really priceless things can be carried in a rather large envelope. Really? And they are photos and maybe some diaries of people and stuff, letters you've saved, letters from James Cagney in this case, and that kind of stuff. The really irreplaceable stuff is not the chairs and the sofas and all the things you lament in the mirror.
Now, where are you on this?
My wife has gone about and accomplished a miracle, and I think we don't know when we might be rerun, do we? But right now, I think it's the current Architectural Digest has the whole miraculous story of how she went from a chimney 3 stories high, standing in rubble, and that was it, to duplicating, finding the right craftsman. And it's
were Stanford White's plans on file somewhere?
They weren't, no, sadly enough. His grandson was available, and or maybe it's his great-grandson, and architects who knew his work well, but no, unhappily, McKim, Mead, and White did not have a drawer containing the Dick Cavett place.
Because you bought this house a long time ago, didn't you? Went back almost in this late 50s or early 60s?
Yeah, way back in the late 60s. And I remember almost everyone who came there said, why would anyone ever leave this place? Because its setting was so magical. It is, and the sea and the way the house is a real wonderful.
Are you happiest out there?
It's hard to say right now since I'm doing 8 shows a week. You
haven't been there for a while.
If memory serves, I'm happiest out there. I do love to get out there, yeah.